Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. Welcome to my tutorial for how to read a grading rubric for a practice assignment. So what's a practice assignment? Well, in my courses, there are usually two kinds of assignment. There are assignments where we practice the skills that we're learning, and then there are assignments where we make a final demonstration of the skills that we've learned. So the former, where we're practicing, I call practice assignments as a general term. And then the latter, I call final assignments. So what's the practice assignment? Well, coding assignments. So right now we're looking at the grading rubric for my IS 430 course, which is a Python programming course. All the practice assignments are called coding assignments. Okay. And this is the grading rubric for one of these. By contrast, there'll be a final project. That's a final assignment. And I'll be doing a separate tutorial video on how to read a grading rubric for a final assignment. Okay, so this is a coding assignment. It is, this isn't the rubric, this is a feedback form. I see that now. This is the rubric. The feedback forms are for the next recording that I'm going to do. But they're all for the same assignment. They're for the Chapter 2 coding assignment. Okay, so these kind of practice assignments have a lot of common qualities. One is almost all my assignments are scored on the basis of 100 points. Okay, so let's begin with the base point allocation. Okay, these are points that I just give you. Okay, so if you hand the assignment in within the allowable time frame, you get the base points. That's 23 points. Okay, I know I'm a nice guy. What can I say? The way that you rate these rubrics, each of these kind of boxes, the two-tone boxes that have a title in the kind of more gray color, like base point allocation. That bigger box, that is a section. So and then each of the darker green parts inside is an item. Okay, so a grading rubric is made up of one or more sections, and each of the sections is made up of one or more items, and each of the items has some points allocated to it for which you get a % credit, and that's how many points that you get. So the base point allocation has an item called base points. It's got 23 available points. If you hand in your assignment within an allowable time, you score 100%, you get all 23 points. Then there's a section for submission, and one item under it is called timeliness. So it's whether you're on time or not. And if you're on time, you get 100% of 16 points. And if you're late, you get 0. So on my practice assignments, timeliness is a big deal. And the reason is that I believe that you get all the benefit of doing these practice assignments, like the coding assignment in this IS 430 course. You get all the benefit by having having made a good faith try on all the required parts of the assignment before the due date. Because after the due date, when we come to class, I show you the solutions, okay? And once you've seen the solution, the experience just changes, right? Everything looks easy when you've seen the solution, okay? So that's why the timeliness counts so much. It counts for 16 points, quite a bit. Okay, the other part of submission is, the other item is file submitted. It has 10 available points, okay? And this is really important to our grading, okay? If you hand in a file in which we're typically expecting, here on these assignments, we're expecting to get one file submitted to Canvas that's a zip. We're expected to be named according to the instructions. We're expecting it to be a proper PyCharm project in this case. And the directory contents must be a proper PyCharm project. If you hand it in that way, we can grade it pretty expeditiously. To the extent that you don't comply with these things, the grading bogs down. It takes 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 times as long for us to grade it. So these requirements that we have for files submitted may seem kind of petty to you, but they're really important to us because it's a difference between it being feasible to hand grade all these assignments. You know, we typically look at your work if it's a programming course or some kind of course like that. We'll actually run the software and we'll test it. That takes time. That's only feasible if everybody hands in things the right way. So the file submitted at 10 points seems like a lot, but again, it's not really feasible for us to take this kind of high service approach to grading unless you do your part. Okay, so the next section is the first of the exercises. And just in the current semester, I've begun to take assignments and have regular parts and an optional challenge part. So on these coding assignments like we have here, the regular parts are exercises. Okay, so the regular exercises are required. Okay, so we have 3 regular exercises, and you can see that this one's required. And then the last one, the 4th one, is, I'll get down to it, it's going to say it's an optional challenge exercise. Okay, now, you don't have to do it. Okay, it's worth 5 points in total. It's the difference between a 95 and 100 if you get all the points. Okay, and this is an important aspect of the way I'm setting up the grading, which is if you meet expectations on all the regular parts, not the optional challenge parts, and you hand it in on time and you follow the rules for file submission, all those things, you'll get a 95, you'll get a good solid A. Okay, to get between 95 and 100, you'll have to do the optional challenge exercise. It's not required. That's the optional part of optional challenge. But the, meets all expectations on the required parts will get you a 95. Okay, so let me just show you. Let me back off. I'll go back to exercise 1, and we can see um, that it has its own section. That's what this, gray-green kind of box is, the lighter one. Okay, and we can see that that it, one item under exercise one. Well, we can see that exercise one is one of the required regular exercises. Um, we can see that one item under it is completeness, the other item under it is technique. And for technique, we have 8 available points. And for the completeness, we have 7 available points. Okay, so 8 and 7 is 15. So potentially you could earn for exercise 1 up to 15 points. And the point weighting has to do with how many exercises there are. Okay. And when there are more exercises, each one is worth less. And when there are fewer, each one is worth more. Okay. Um, and the completeness has to do with, the things I've listed under the requirements here. Must produce the expected quantity of results, must produce exact values expected, results must be formatted as expected. So this is kind of in a programming course like this one's for. This completeness has to do with, well, did you get the results? Did you do the whole job and did you get all the results and were they accurate? Okay. Whereas the technique has to do with a lot of uh, the technique of the code that you handed in. So you can get the good results. Uh, you can be highly complete and been kind of raggedy on the technique, or uh, you could be great on the technique and uh, not have gotten the results that we're looking for, so you're not going to score on the completeness. And then for each of these things, um, the scale that I have here is pretty typical. So you get 100% of the points for meeting all the expectation, 90% for nearly all, 75 for most expectations, 50 for some expectations, 25 for few expectations, 10 for nearly no expectations, uh, 0 for no expectations, and 0 also for not submitted or submitted too late. And each of these, I haven't really talked about this yet, but each of these items that we have that fall under the sections has a list of requirements. And these are the requirements that you have to meet. And to the extent that you don't, well, then you're going to get less than meets all expectations. Okay? So, uh, there we are. So, for instance, we've got 3 required exercises, right? Exercise 1 here is worth 15 points. Exercise 2 is worth 7 and 8. It's at 15 points, yeah. And exercise 3 is worth, I think, 8 and 8. It's worth 16 points. And if you add them up, they add up to 46 points. Okay, so 46 points um, is uh, significant. And then the other significant part is that the optional challenge exercise is always worth in total 5 points. So 2 for completeness, 3 for 3 for technique. So you might say, well, that's a lot fewer points for maybe more work. And I'd say it's very hard to get from 95 to 100. Okay. It's very hard to get an A plus. Okay. Um, Pretty reasonably achievable to get 95. It's achievable and reasonably easily met to get an A. Okay, so these points for the exercises, including the optional challenge one, add up to 51 points. That's significant because um, the other points add up to 49. Okay, so what were the other points? Okay, well, uh, the base points had 23. Um, the timeliness at 16, that's got you at what, 39. And the file submitted at 10, that's got you at 49. Okay, so 51 points for the work itself, and 49 points for handing the thing in and it doing a good job on that. Okay, so if in fact you don't do all of these things and you so what am I saying here? Here's what I'm going to say. To the extent that you don't get all the points for the things that you hand in, not how you hand them in. So, in this case, the exercises, well, it's coming out of your 51 points, right? Okay. And this tends to scale the grades that you get to a pretty fairly within expectations of a 100-point scale. Now, I've already talked about the only way to get between 95 and 100 is to do the optional challenge exercise. Okay, and again, the optional challenge exercise is more work for the points that you get. Okay, it's engineered to be that way. Now, of these 51 points, I call them content points. Okay, so interestingly, if you look at the points we've been through, like base point says 23 available points, not content points. Timeliness, 16 available points, not content points. File submitted, 10 available points, not content points. So those 49 points for like handing it in and naming it and all those things, they're not content points. So what are content points? Well, they're the 51 points for the real work. Okay, so if you look at exercise 1, once we get into the exercises, completeness here for exercise 1 says 7 available content points. And then technique says 8 available content points. These are coming out of the 51. Okay, so I have a grading deal, which you'll have heard about in the syllabus and in my introductory lecture to the course, which is to say, if you make a good faith effort on all the required or regular parts of the assignment. On this one, this would mean exercises 1, 2, and 3. Okay, they're the regular and required parts. It would not mean exercise 4 because that's the optional challenge exercise. So if you make a good faith effort on 1, 2, and 3, I will make you a guarantee that you will score at least 36 points in these content points. Okay, now where does that show up? Well, if we go all the way down to the bottom, there's a little bit of language. If you come down to the bottom, you can see total available points. And let me pump this up a bit. Okay, so this grading rubric allows for adjustments to be made to your content point score. The total number of content points available to award on this assignment is 51. That's typical. An adjustment of up to 36 content points may be made for submissions that have a low content point score and yet meet the following criteria. So the criteria include assignments must be submitted on time. So if you submit it on time, that's one part of what you need to get this grade adjustment deal. Work submitted must show good faith effort on all required exercises. So for this assignment, that would be exercise 1, 2, and 3. And what do we mean by good faith effort? Well, this is a coding course, so a good faith effort would be you've got code there. It looked like you tried. It looks like you made a good, respectable start. Okay. And then the last thing that we say here is it's possible to qualify for the points adjustment without having submitted work on the optional challenge exercise. That's because the optional challenge exercise is optional. Okay? So what's the lesson in this that you should take away? Well, you should always start your practice assignment. In this case, for a programming course, it's a coding assignment. You should always start your practice assignment early enough that you can do a good faith job on all the required parts. Okay, and hand it in on time. Okay, there's two sides of that. One, even if you have trouble, you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to learn even more when you get to class and we go through the solutions. Oh, okay, so you're going to set yourself up for learning. But the other thing is, you're really going to help your score, right? If in fact you make a good faith effort on all parts here. And let me make this a little smaller again. Okay, so let's say that you make a good faith effort on all parts and you hand it in on time. So you're going to get the base points. You're going to get your 23. Okay, you're going to get the timeliness. You'll get your 16. Okay, if you name your file right, okay, you're going to get your 10. Okay, and if you make a good faith effort on 1, 2, and 3 here, those are the required parts. Okay, regardless of how much trouble you have, you're going to get an 85. Okay, the numbers work out here so that you'll get an 85. And my scheme here is I don't offer extra credit. I don't allow people to resubmit. I don't do all those things. But the fact is, if you're getting 85s in your worst case scenario, you can always recover. You know what I mean? You're always going to recover from that. And you don't want to hand in things late. You don't want to not hand things in. If you don't hand things in, you're going to get a 0, right? that's going to just destroy your grade. All right. If you hand in things late, you're going to lose the 16 points up here for on time. And the fact is, so if you hand in things on time and you name your files right and you do all that kind of stuff and you have a hard time, you'll get an 84. I mean, an 85. Okay, because of this grade adjustment scheme. On the other hand, if you hand it in late, you've lost 16 points. You can't score more than 84. Okay, so get them in on time. So I have I have a companion tutorial which is named How to Read a Feedback Form. The same system that I use to generate these grading rubrics, I also use to generate the feedback forms. And the feedback forms look a lot like the rubric. So when you're ready, I'm just about to wrap up here. When you're ready, go to the other tutorial, and I'm going to go through some sample feedback forms, and I think you'll get a greater feel for what the possibilities are for scoring on these things, and then how to read the feedback. So, having said that, I'm going to say bye until next time. Bye bye.